Bremer's Lucky Day. Once upon a time, there was a guy named Bremer. When he was in college, he became a member of a secret club where he met his best friends Sandy, Stephen, and Paul. When Bremer graduated, he became the boss of a big company. His company invented a special explosive gel called sol-gel nano-thermite. The instructions said it should be used for building demolition. Later, he became the boss of another big company. This company invented a special way to spray gooey gel through a little hose. The instructions said it should be used in really tall buildings. Then, Bremer went on to work in this really tall building. His best friend Stephen became the boss of a whole team of investigators. One day, one of the investigators found out about an evil terrorist who was developing an evil plot to hijack airplanes and fly them into buildings, even while people were still inside them. When this investigator told Stephen about the evil plot, Stephen made him stop investigating. Bremer's best friend Paul became a big banker, and one day he visited a spy who that same week gave $100,000 to the evil terrorist. Then later that same week, the terrorist flew an airplane right into Bremer's office. The airplane crashed at 591 miles per hour, 10 times as fast as a speeding car. Because of this, many people in the building died. Most of the airplane passengers died too. In fact, the only passengers who survived the airplane crash were some of the hijackers. But guess who else survived? The one person who wasn't in his office that day was Lucky Bremer. Instead of going to work and getting hit by an airplane like the rest of his co-workers, Bremer became famous by going on live national television to tell the world who done it. He also called for the most severe military response we can come up with. Some people started asking, how did he know who done it? Other people started asking, how did he know that it would be done? Because it was done, thousands of people died that day. Some of their families were so sad that they got together and asked their government for a special investigation so that they and the whole world could know all about what happened that day. To lead the investigation, the government chose somebody who was close friends with the terrorists. When the families asked him if he was friends with the terrorists, he decided not to do it. Then the government chose somebody else. The person they chose this time was Stephen's boss's best friend. The investigation was long and difficult. Many of the investigators complained about being lied to by just about everybody they interviewed. And while the investigations were still going on, documents were being stolen from them. When the thief was finally caught, it turned out to be Bremer's best friend Sandy. When they finished, they finally told the world that it was all just bad luck and that they didn't bother to find out who gave the hijackers money to pay for the attacks because ultimately the question is of little practical significance. As time went on, the military designed a full-out anti-terrorist campaign, and they chose Bremer to be its governor. Then one day, a group of scientists said they found something interesting in the dust of those buildings. They said it didn't belong. They said it was an explosive gel. They called it sol-gel nano-thermite. They said they think it might have been sprayed onto important areas of the buildings to make them come down after the airplanes hit them. When the news people heard about this, they started making fun of the scientists. They made up many news stories full of name-calling and even lies. They said thermite has never been used in demolition before, even though it has. They tried to prove that thermite can't hurt steel, even though this structure was made of steel. They even got the boss of a famous science magazine to call the thermite demolition theory ridiculous, even though this demolition story was from his own magazine. They tried so hard to convince the world that with sol-gel nano-thermite, demolition was impossible, even though it was invented for that purpose. It was almost as if the news people were protecting Bremer. Now, for those of you who think this is all circumstantial, maybe you can tell me under what circumstances could L. Paul Bremer's nano-thermite possibly have gotten into the World Trade Center dust? And please tell me, what are the chances that somebody would go through all the trouble of inventing and patenting nano-thermite for the purpose of building demolition and then never use it?